What if I told you that right now, in your hands, you carry an encoded map of your soul's deepest purpose? That these lines you glance at absent-mindedly every day aren't just random skin creases, but living records of an existential mission that Jung called individuation. Your palms hold secrets your conscious mind hasn't yet grasped. While you waste time searching for answers in distant places, the truth about who you really came here to be is literally imprinted on you since birth. Jung discovered something disturbing. There's a hidden language between the collective unconscious and the physical symbols of our body. And your palm lines are the most intimate dialect of this ancestral conversation. Brace yourself, because what you're about to discover could completely transform how you see your destiny. These aren't just lines, they're your soul's coordinates. 1. The ancient map. When archetypes meet your palms, hold your hand in front of you right now. What you're looking at isn't just flesh and bone. It's a living document, written in a language older than words, a code that connects you to every human who has ever lived. Jung spent decades proving that beneath our individual personalities, we all share the same fundamental patterns he called archetypes. These aren't abstract concepts floating in some theoretical space. They're real forces living inside you, shaping how you love, think, struggle, and grow. And they've left their signature all over your palms. Most people walk through life, never understanding why they do what they do, why they're attracted to certain people, why they repeat the same patterns, why some paths feel natural while others feel impossible. They blame their parents, their circumstances, bad luck, or fate. But Jung knew better. He understood that we're all living out ancient stories, embodying timeless characters, playing roles that were written into the human psyche long before we were born. The difference between someone who lives consciously and someone who stumbles through life asleep is simple. Conscious people know which archetype is driving them at any given moment. Your palm lines are the bridge between your individual story and these universal patterns. They're not fortune-telling tools predicting some fixed future carved in stone. They're diagnostic instruments showing you which archetypal energies dominate your personality, which ones are suppressed, which ones are fighting for control of your life. When you learn to read these marks correctly, you stop being a puppet dancing to invisible strings. You become the choreographer of your own existence. Think about it this way: every line on your hand represents a different channel through which life force flows. Some channels are wide open, flooding you with specific kinds of energy. Others are narrow, restricted, barely letting anything through. The pattern of these channels determines everything about how you experience being alive. It shapes whether you lead with your heart or your head, whether you burn fast and bright or slow and steady, whether you're here to create, destroy, nurture, or transform. Jung identified dozens of archetypes, but certain ones appear more powerfully in palm reading than others. The lover archetype governs your capacity for connection, intimacy, and emotional depth. The sage controls your relationship with knowledge, wisdom, and mental clarity. The warrior determines your survival instincts, your fight response, your raw life force. The magician influences your ability to communicate, persuade, and transform reality through words and symbols. The mother shapes your nurturing capacity, whether you give life to people, projects, or ideas. Every single person contains all these archetypes, but not in equal measure. Your soul came here with certain energies turned up high and others dialed way down. This isn't random. It's your assignment. You're supposed to be stronger in some areas and weaker in others because your specific configuration is exactly what's needed to fulfill your unique mission. The tragedy is that most people spend their whole lives trying to be balanced, trying to develop their weak spots, trying to become well-rounded. They're working against their own design. Your palm shows you the truth they don't want you to know. You're not supposed to be good at everything. You're supposed to be exceptional at specific things and completely inadequate at others. That's not a bug, it's a feature. Your weaknesses aren't flaws to fix. They're boundaries, showing you where your energy isn't meant to go, protecting you from wasting your life force on missions that aren't yours. When you look at your dominant hand versus your non-dominant hand, you're seeing the gap between who you're supposed to be and who you've become. Your non-dominant hand shows your original programming, the archetypal configuration you were born with, the raw potential you arrived carrying. Your dominant hand reveals what happened to that potential after years of conditioning, trauma, education, and survival. Most people's hands tell tragic stories of potential buried, energies suppressed, channels closed down to make you acceptable to a world that fears authentic power. But here's what changes everything. These lines aren't fixed. Archetypes aren't prison cells. They're costumes you can put on and take off, roles you can step into and out of, energies you can amplify or quiet depending on what the moment demands. The whole point of understanding this system isn't to lock yourself into some predetermined identity. It's to gain conscious control over forces that have been controlling you unconsciously your entire life. Every major line on your palm corresponds to a primary archetype trying to express itself through you. Every mount represents a different god or goddess waiting to wake up and take the wheel when you need their particular gifts. Every intersection marks a moment when competing archetypal forces must negotiate with each other, creating the conflicts and tensions that drive your personal growth. Your hand is literally a map showing you which internal characters are currently running your show and which ones are locked in the basement screaming to be let out. The truth nobody tells you is this: you're not one person. You're a whole cast of characters, and different ones take center stage at different times. When you fall in love, the lover archetype possesses you completely. When you face danger, the warrior takes over. When you're creating something new, the artist or magician steps forward. When someone needs care, the mother or father emerges. Healthy people move fluidly between these roles. Unhealthy people get stuck in one, playing the same character in every situation, even when it makes no sense. Your palm reveals which archetypal energies flow easily and which ones are blocked. A deep, clear line shows an archetype that has full permission to express itself through you. A faint, broken, or absent line reveals an archetype that's been suppressed, an energy you've been taught to fear or hide or deny. The goal isn't to have perfect lines. The goal is to understand what your specific pattern means, to know which gods are blessing your life and which ones you've banished, to consciously choose which archetypal forces you want to strengthen and which ones you need to finally release. What you're about to learn in the following sections will give you X-ray vision into your own psyche. You'll see why you've struggled where you've struggled, why certain things come easily while others feel impossible, why you're attracted to specific types of people and repelled by others. More importantly, you'll discover which archetypal missions your soul actually signed up for versus which ones other people projected onto you. You'll learn to read your hand the way Jung would read it, not as a prediction of your future, but as a revelation of your true nature, finally visible after years of being hidden in plain sight. Your liberation starts the moment you understand that these marks aren't chains binding you to fate. They're wings showing you how high you were always meant to fly. 2. The heartline, where the lover and the wounded healer live. Look at that curved line running beneath your fingers, sweeping across your palm like a smile or a scar. This is where your entire emotional architecture lives, where two of Jung's most powerful archetypes wage their eternal battle. The lover and the wounded healer both claim this territory as their domain, and the shape of this single line reveals which one currently controls your capacity to connect, feel, and love. The lover archetype isn't about romance, though romance is part of it. This is the force within you that reaches toward connection, that refuses to be alone, that finds meaning through relationship and intimacy. When this archetype flows freely through you, you're magnetic without trying, present without effort, able to create bonds that transform everyone involved. People feel seen by you, held by you, understood in ways they've never experienced before. This isn't a skill you learned. It's an energy you channel, and your heartline shows how wide that channel opens. A deep, clear heartline sweeping in a generous curve announces the lover in full power. You're someone who came here to experience connection at maximum intensity, to demonstrate what's possible when a human being refuses to protect themselves from feeling everything. Your emotions aren't background noise. They're the main event. You navigate life through your heart first, letting feelings guide you toward or away from people, situations, and choices. Logic comes second, if it comes at all. You'd rather make the wrong decision authentically than the right one calculated. But if your line runs straight and shallow, barely curving at all, you're living proof that the lover doesn't dominate everyone. Your heart operates differently, not broken but built for different purposes. You love through actions rather than expressions, through loyalty rather than passion, through consistency rather than intensity. You're the one who shows up year after year while others burn bright and disappear. Your love doesn't announce itself because it doesn't need to. It simply exists, steady and undeniable. Now here's where it gets deeper. That same line holds the wounded healer, Jung's archetype of someone whose own suffering becomes their greatest medicine for others. Look closely at your heartline for breaks, islands, chains, or splits. These aren't damage. They're initiation scars, evidence that your heart has been shattered and reassembled, that you've survived emotional destruction and emerged with gifts born directly from that pain. Every break in this line marks a specific moment when love nearly destroyed you. A relationship that ended so badly you thought you'd never recover. A betrayal that shattered your ability to trust. A loss so profound it rewired your entire emotional system. These breaks look like weaknesses until you understand what Jung knew. The wounded healer can't exist without first being wounded. You can't guide others through heartbreak if you've never had your own heart broken. You can't teach people how to love again if you've never had to learn it yourself. People with heavily marked heartlines, covered in small interruptions and complications, often think something is wrong with them. They compare their messy lines to others' smooth ones and feel deficient. But Jung would see the exact opposite. Those marks are credentials, proof that your soul took the advanced course in emotional transformation. You're not damaged goods. You're a specialist, someone who knows the territory of heartbreak so intimately you can guide others through it when they get lost. The length of your heartline reveals how far your emotional capacity extends. A long line, reaching almost to the edge of your palm, shows someone whose ability to care encompasses huge numbers of people. You're the friend who somehow maintains deep connections with dozens of people, who never forgets a birthday, who shows up when anyone needs you. Your heart has room for everyone, which is beautiful and exhausting. You're here to demonstrate that love doesn't diminish when shared, that caring for many doesn't mean caring less for each. A short heartline isn't cold or limited. It's concentrated. You're someone who loves a few people with totality rather than many people partially. Your emotional energy focuses like a laser rather than spreading like sunlight. You're the person who has 2 real friends instead of 20 acquaintances, who'd rather go deep with a few than shallow with many. In a world that measures love by quantity, you're here to prove quality matters more. Where your heartline begins reveals your entry point into emotional life. Starting beneath your index finger connects you to the king or queen archetype, someone who loves from a position of strength, who gives from abundance rather than need. You don't require love to survive. You offer it because you have so much it overflows naturally. Starting beneath your middle finger shows a heart that learned to love through wisdom rather than instinct, someone who had to study emotion like a foreign language before becoming fluent. The ending point matters just as much. If your heartline curves upward toward your fingers, your emotional destiny involves expressing love outwardly, becoming more demonstrative, learning to show what you feel rather than just feeling it privately. A line that stays straight or curves slightly downward suggests your work is internal, mastering your own heart before offering it to others, becoming emotionally sovereign before seeking partnership. But here's the secret that transforms everything about how you understand this line. The lover and the wounded healer aren't separate. They're the same archetype at different stages of development. Everyone starts as the innocent lover, believing in connection, trusting in relationships, giving their heart freely. Then life wounds them. Betrayal happens, loss happens, pain happens. At that moment, you face a choice. You can close your heart and never love fully again, protecting yourself by staying shallow. Or you can let the wound break you open so wide that you become capable of even deeper love than before, transforming your pain into compassion, your scars into wisdom. Your heartline shows which choice you made or are currently making. A line that was once smooth but now shows new marks appearing means you're in the middle of that transformation right now, being initiated into the wounded healer mysteries, whether you wanted this or not. A line that's been marked for as long as you can remember shows you've been doing this work your whole life, that you came here already carrying wounds that would become your medicine. The people with the most complicated heartlines are often the most gifted healers, therapists, counselors and guides, precisely because they've walked through emotional fire and survived. Their lines aren't unfortunate, they're badges of honor. And if your line is simple and clear, that's not better or worse. It just means your soul chose a different curriculum, that you're here to maintain innocence rather than develop through wounding, to show that not everyone has to suffer to become wise. Stand in front of a mirror and press your palm against it, heartline facing you. Look at that curve, those marks, that pathway carved into your skin. That's not random biology. That's your emotional destiny made visible, the lover and wounded healer both writing their story in your flesh, showing you exactly how you're supposed to love, lose, break, and heal in this lifetime. The line isn't telling you what will happen. It's showing you what you came here to learn, and the moment you understand that difference, you stop being a victim of your emotional patterns and become their conscious creator instead. By the way, if you're curious to go even deeper and integrate your shadows and light, check out the Sim Method ebook. It's a concise guide that can help you unlock your inner power in just 5 minutes a day. The link is in the first pinned comment below. 3. The headline, Where the Sage and the Magician Think. Move your attention to that horizontal line crossing your palm, the one that cuts through the middle of your hand like a horizon dividing earth from sky. This is where your mental architecture lives, where two of the most powerful thinking archetypes Jung identified battle for control of your consciousness. The sage and the magician both claim this territory, and the shape of this line reveals which one runs your mental show. The sage archetype is the eternal student, the philosopher, the one who believes understanding is the highest goal. When this energy dominates you, you're someone who can't stop asking why, who needs to comprehend everything before acting, who trusts knowledge above all else. You collect information like others collect possessions. Your mind is a library constantly expanding, and you feel most alive when learning something new. A straight headline cutting clearly across your palm announces the sage in command. Your thoughts move in logical sequences, building understanding brick by brick, creating solid structures of knowledge that others can rely on. But a curved headline, one that bends downward toward your wrist, reveals the magician taking over. This archetype doesn't think in straight lines. It thinks in spirals, symbols, and sudden flashes of knowing that bypass logic entirely. When this energy flows through you, ideas arrive fully formed from nowhere. Insights hit without warning, and you understand things you have no rational reason to understand. People call you intuitive, creative, or just plain weird. You're all three because your mind accesses information from sources the sage doesn't believe exist. The length tells you how far your mental reach extends. A short headline doesn't mean a limited mind. It means a focused one. You're someone who goes deep into specific subjects rather than wide across many topics. You master one thing completely while others dabble in everything superficially. Your thoughts don't scatter because they're too busy drilling down, finding depths others never reach because they won't stay in one place long enough. A long headline stretching nearly to the edge of your palm shows the opposite configuration. Your mind was built to explore, to question, to never settle into comfortable answers. You're the eternal seeker, someone whose curiosity can't be satisfied because every answer generates 10 new questions. This isn't torture, it's your purpose. You're here to keep thinking, to prevent intellectual stagnation, to be perpetually unsatisfied with what everyone already knows. Where this line begins reveals your mental starting point. If it starts joined with your lifeline, your thinking is always filtered through survival concerns. You can't separate thoughts from their practical implications. Every idea gets tested against reality immediately. Will it work? Is it safe? Can I actually do this? The sage in you demands proof before belief. But if these lines start separated, your thoughts roam free from survival fears. You can entertain dangerous ideas, think impossible thoughts, imagine radical realities without your nervous system shutting you down. The magician in you thinks first and worries about consequences later. Breaks in this line show moments when your entire way of thinking had to shatter and rebuild. These aren't signs of mental weakness. They're evidence of cognitive evolution, proof that you're someone whose mind transforms rather than staying fixed. Most people think the same thoughts in the same patterns their entire lives. Your breaks prove you're not most people. You're someone capable of genuine mental metamorphosis. Small islands or chains woven into your headline reveal periods when your thinking splits into competing streams. You're experiencing what Jung called the tension of opposites, holding contradictory ideas simultaneously without needing to resolve them immediately. This creates mental discomfort, but also creative breakthrough. The sage wants to eliminate contradiction through logic. The magician knows that truth often lives in paradox. A deep, heavily etched headline shows someone who lives primarily through thinking. Your mind is always on, always processing, turning everything into concepts and categories. You experience life mentally first and emotionally second. This makes you brilliant at analysis, but sometimes disconnected from direct experience. A faint line suggests your intelligence flows differently, perhaps into intuitive channels that don't leave obvious traces, operating through feeling or instinct rather than conscious thought. The space between your headline and heartline creates what Jung would call the battlefield between thinking and feeling. A wide gap means these two operate independently in you. You can think coldly while feeling intensely, maintain logical clarity even during emotional storms. This is the philosopher's gift and the philosopher's curse. You're integrated enough to function, but split enough to always feel internal tension. A narrow space shows less separation. Your thoughts and feelings blend together constantly, making you either beautifully whole or constantly confused, depending on whether you've learned to harmonize these voices. Where your headline ends reveals your mental destination. If it curves upward, your thinking is meant to elevate, to reach toward higher understanding, to lift consciousness upward. If it slopes downward, you're designed to dive deep into the unconscious, to explore the dark waters below ordinary awareness, to find wisdom in places others fear to look. A fork at the end shows the rare mind that can do both, ascending and descending with equal skill. Here's what changes everything. This line shows which archetype currently dominates your thinking, but you're not stuck there. The sage and magician aren't enemies, they're partners. The best minds learn to switch between them, using linear logic, when situations demand clarity, and symbolic thinking, when situations demand creativity. Your headline isn't a life sentence. It's a starting point, showing you which mental muscle you've developed and which one needs strengthening. Every time you consciously choose to think differently, to question your habitual mental patterns, to access the archetype you normally suppress, your headline begins shifting. Your brain is plastic, which means your palm is too. The question isn't which thinking style you have. The question is which one you'll choose to develop next, and whether you're brave enough to let your mind transform into something it's never been before. 4. The lifeline, where the warrior and the survivor stand guard. Trace that curve wrapping around the base of your thumb, flowing from somewhere near your index finger down toward your wrist. This isn't a countdown to your death date like fortune tellers claim. This is where your raw life force lives, where the warrior and survivor archetypes stand guard over your existence itself. These two aren't about fighting external battles. They're about your fundamental relationship with being alive, with occupying physical space, with having the audacity to exist at all. The warrior archetype carries what Jung called libido, but not sexual energy, life energy. The force that makes you get up every morning, that pushes you forward when everything says stop, that refuses to quit even when quitting makes perfect sense. A deep, clear lifeline curving in a wide arc announces the warrior in full strength. You're someone who said yes to existence with your whole being, who claimed your right to be here without apology, who takes up space because you know you're supposed to. But if your line hugs close to your thumb, curving in a tight arc, you're expressing the survivor instead. This archetype doesn't broadcast energy outward. It conserves, protects, maintains. You're not here to dominate or conquer. You're here to endure, to last, to still be standing when the dust settles. While warriors burn bright, survivors glow steady. Both complete their missions, one through intensity, the other through persistence. The length doesn't predict how long you'll live. It reveals how you engage with living. A short lifeline shows someone here for concentrated experience rather than extended duration. You're packing maximum intensity into whatever time you have, living each moment with urgency others never feel. A long line flowing almost to your wrist suggests a different contract. You're built for the marathon, designed to go the distance, here to demonstrate that presence matters more than intensity. Where this line begins tells you how you entered physical existence. Starting high up near your index finger means you arrived with vitality already flowing. You never questioned your right to be here. You took your place in the world naturally, claiming space without internal debate. But a lower starting point reveals someone who had to fight for their existence from the beginning. You learned to be alive rather than assuming it. The survivor in you had to prove your worth before the warrior could emerge. Breaks in this line aren't death predictions. They're records of times when your entire energetic system had to shut down and reboot. Serious illness, major trauma, life upheavals so complete they required you to reconstruct yourself from nothing. These gaps show you've died and been reborn within the same lifetime. You're not the same person who entered that break. You emerged, transformed, carrying scars that became strengths. Islands or chains reveal periods when your life force splits, serving competing demands. You're being pulled in opposite directions so strongly, your energy fragments. This is the survivor's great challenge, knowing which battles to fight and which to abandon. Warriors want to win everything. Survivors know that sometimes the victory is in strategic retreat, in preserving energy for fights that actually matter. Small lines branching off show moments when your life force invested itself beyond your body's boundaries. Upward branches Mark investments that returned energy, relationships or projects that fed you back. Downward branches show drains, commitments that cost more than they gave. Your line records every energetic transaction, showing you where your vitality goes and whether you're getting fair exchange. A wide curve sweeping generously into your palm announces life force that can't be contained. You affect every room you enter, change every person you meet, leave energetic residue everywhere you go. You're built to impact, to influence, to demonstrate what full incarnation looks like. A tight curve shows different gifts. Your vitality operates internally, creating depth rather than breadth, quality rather than quantity of presence. The depth matters intensely. A deeply carved line shows life force flowing like a river cutting through stone. You feel everything at maximum volume, experience existence at full intensity. You can't do anything halfway. A faint line doesn't mean weak vitality. It means your energy flows differently, perhaps through subtle channels that don't register obviously on the physical plane. You're the quiet force, powerful precisely because you don't announce yourself. Where this line ends reveals your relationship with completion. A gradual fade suggests slow winding down, energy dimming by degrees. An abrupt end indicates different timing. Vitality maintained at full strength until suddenly it isn't. Neither predicts your actual death. Both describe your energetic style, how you'll approach the final transition when it eventually comes. Here's the truth that liberates. This line changes. Unlike fingerprints that stay fixed, your lifeline deepens as you commit more fully to being here, widens as you claim more space, strengthens as your relationship with existence matures. Every choice to show up fully, every decision to stop hiding, every moment you choose presence over numbness literally rewrites this curve. The warrior and survivor aren't fighting each other. They're teaching you that true strength isn't about dominating or enduring alone. It's about knowing when to push forward and when to conserve, when to take space and when to retreat, when to burn bright and when to glow steady. Your lifeline isn't showing you how long you'll live. It's asking you how fully you'll live, how completely you'll occupy this existence, how deeply you'll commit to being undeniably, courageously, magnificently here. 5. The destiny line, where the hero and the seeker find purpose. Look for a vertical line running up the center of your palm, traveling from your wrist toward your fingers. Many people don't have this line at all, and that's the first revelation. This is where Jung's hero and seeker archetypes reveal themselves, showing whether you came here with predetermined purpose or to create meaning through exploration. The hero archetype needs a quest, clear direction, a mountain to climb. When you have a strong destiny line cutting straight up your palm, you're living the hero's journey. You always knew what you were here to do, even before you could name it. That internal compass never stopped pointing toward your purpose. You don't waste energy wondering what your life means, because you already know. A destiny line starting low at your wrist and traveling far up announces purpose, imprinted from birth. You never had to find yourself because you never lost yourself. Others envy this clarity, but it comes with pressure. When you know your mission, you can't pretend you don't. Ignorance isn't available as excuse. But no destiny line means you're the seeker instead. You're not here to follow a map. You're here to create the path by walking it. Your purpose isn't discovered but built through choices and continuous reinvention. The seeker doesn't need security of knowing. The seeker finds meaning in the search itself. People without this line often feel broken, like everyone else got instructions they never received. But the seeker's path requires more courage, moving forward without knowing the destination. A line appearing halfway up your palm shows someone who became the hero after years as the seeker. Your purpose wasn't clear initially. You had to wander before your path revealed itself. This isn't late blooming, but the natural timeline for missions requiring life experience before activation. Breaks reveal moments when purpose shattered completely, dark nights when your mission stopped making sense. These aren't failures, but initiations into deeper purpose, your soul demanding you release small missions to discover larger ones. Where this line ends matters profoundly. Reaching toward your index finger means leadership. Toward your middle finger suggests teaching and wisdom. Toward your ring finger shows creative expression. Each direction reveals which archetypal energy your life serves. This line can appear where none existed before. The seeker becomes hero when purpose crystallizes. Heroes lose their lines when missions complete, returning to seeking until the next quest reveals itself. Your destiny isn't fixed but alive, evolving, waiting for conscious choice rather than accidental stumbling. 6. The mounts, where all archetypes sleep. Waiting. Ignore the lines and feel your palm's landscape. Press gently and notice where flesh rises beneath your fingers and around your thumb. These mounts are dwelling places of archetypes, universal patterns existing in every human. Each elevation corresponds to a different god sleeping inside you, waiting to wake. The mount beneath your index finger houses the king or queen. If it feels full and prominent, you came here to lead, to assume authority. This isn't about titles, but inner sovereignty that doesn't ask permission. A flat mount shows different purpose, mastering yourself rather than others, leading by example instead of command. Beneath your middle finger lives the sage, the wise elder. Prominent rise signals someone who can't stop learning, who transforms experience into understanding. You're the teacher extracting wisdom from chaos. Recessed area shows wisdom arriving through sudden knowing rather than accumulated learning. The mystic receiving truth directly. Under your ring finger sits the artist, the creator. Swelling here means your purpose involves creation itself, making things or living life as aesthetic act. Flat mount means creative force flows into areas society doesn't recognize as art, perhaps relationships or ways of being that inspire through presence. Beneath your little finger lives the magician, master of communication. Developed mount reveals someone understanding how words create reality, how messages transform situations. Underdeveloped shows important communication happening internally, greatest conversations with yourself. Your thumb's base holds the mother or lover archetype, source of nurturing energy. Full mount announces life force naturally flowing toward caring for others. Less prominent means learning to receive rather than always give. Discovering being held is sacred as holding. The outer edge contains lunar principle, realm of intuition and unconscious knowing. Pronounced mount reveals strong access to information beyond ordinary channels. You're the intuitive knowing things without knowing how. Press all areas now. The most developed reveals which God currently dominates your personality. The flattest shows which you've suppressed. But here's liberation. You're not supposed to develop all equally. Your soul configured some high and others low because your specific pattern serves your unique mission. Stop trying for balance. Honor the gods that rose naturally while respecting why others chose sleep. Your mounts reveal what you came to master, not what you lack.